start off, I put this up because I thought it was very attractive. It's the Gundestrup cauldron found in 1891 in a bog in Denmark. So why do we care about Denmark? Well, it's because the Celts, or the Celts, started off widely throughout Europe, and their culture was translated in many places, not just in Ireland. In fact, they were very influential throughout Europe. Many people called them Gauls. Some Gauls are Celtic, some Gauls were not. In the mind of the Romans, they were all Gauls. So we can see a mix of Greek and Celtic design here. You're always going to see a horned god with Celtic designs. You will not normally see a horned god with Greek designs, but they have bulls and other things in there. That's the Greek part of it. You can see a man down in the left here. Do I have a pointer? No? Here, you can see he's had a torque put on him. Can we take the lights down, Annie? Can you see?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So it's Celtic by culture, probably. And that's a little confused. I tried to find specific Celtic people and DNA, oh, thank you, and genetics, and that was a very confused subject. So today we're going to be talking mainly about culture and language. We'll talk more about language on the 20th. So can they even be identified? There are a lot of arguments. People who are very, very Irish are insistent that there are Celts there are Celts in England, darn it, and they're going to argue with you about it. But scholars and archaeologists, scientists say, well, we haven't really identified a Celtic gene yet. So what they're feeling is that a lot of what we see in Ireland, England, and in France that was Celtic was indeed cultural, language, art. More so than a specific, so it's an attitude. And we know that the Celts and the Gauls have attitude, right? And that was something that really was true of them. So the idea of Celts or Keltoi came from the Romans and the Greek historians who designated them as that in Europe. They said these are the Celtic people. They lived near Massalia, which is today's Marseille in France. And they were situated there, that Marseille is close to the land of the Celts. And the reason for that is because they had a lot of money and the Greeks liked them as customers. So around southern France, around 500 BC, and all the way over into the parts of the British Isles, you're going to find Celtic culture. How much of that is genetic and how much of it is cultural and attitudinal, we don't know. The maps are pretty variable and are based on the archaeological, linguistic, and historic information, mostly via the Greeks and Romans, and it's analyzed by experts. The Celtic people, or the Keltoi, are vaguely described by Encyclopedia Britannica as Indo-European people who, beginning around the 2nd millennium BC, spread over much of Europe. Okay, fine. So that's about as much as we know. They're very distinctive, some of them in appearance. Most of it was language and culture. Where that language came from, we don't know. The first culture that may be considered Celtic or Celtic is the Urnfield culture, about 1300 BC to 750 BC. It was all over the eastern part of Europe, Hungary to Italy in area, phased into Hallstatt, and then in turn that gave way to the Latin culture. And the Latin culture you're going to see more of because that was very widespread. It is identifiably Celtic in its art and probably in the language. Another map guessing where they were. Note the red stars, those are Greek cities right next to the Celts. And it was important because the Celts were learning from the Greeks and the Greeks were treating them as customers who had a lot of money, which they did. It's interesting that we overlook the Celts a lot, don't we? It's kind of mysterious. And what is the reason why you might do that in Europe? Because the history there is very long, and they have concentrated on whom? The Romans. They've concentrated on the Greeks. They've concentrated on medieval. Thank you. They've concentrated on everything but the Celts. And in fact, some of the most interesting discoveries have been fairly late in time, when people finally said, oh, these guys were everywhere. They had a lot of money. And they've started noticing this. And it's suddenly, Celtic studies have kind of taken off. So we may get more specific information eventually. So from the British Museum, because they did a whole exhibit on Celtic art, they were hospitable hosts, welcoming strangers to their feasts, but fierce warriors, quick to take offense at the smallest provocation. In battle, some charged into the fray naked, while others wore elaborate horned or animal-crested helmets. Yet Diodorus also remarks that for all their warlike swagger and boastfulness, these were not an uneducated people. He writes that they spoke in riddles, hinting darkly at their meaning and using one word to stand for another. Among their number were poets and philosophers, druids, who could foretell the future, and so well respected they could halt an army in full charge. They had invaded Greece in the 3rd century and the Romans in the 4th century. So they were known and they were active. Have sword, will travel. Before being defeated by Caesar about 50 BC, the Gauls in various parts of Europe had acted as mercenaries for the Greeks, for Hannibal, and later for Romans. And this is from the histories of Polybius and Britannica. So, spread all over England, and probably Ireland, I haven't gotten there yet, and Europe are hill forts. They're everywhere, and yet there hasn't been a lot of scholarship until, I would say, the last 50 years. In the last 150 years, they've been studying the Romans, the Greeks, the medieval, the Renaissance, and everything. They finally noticed the Celts and how widespread they were, and how powerful they were. These are large settlements. These are very important settlements. This is one of their, that's a very typical Celtic design, isn't it, on that pot? This is Maiden Castle Hill Fort in southwest of London, one of the largest of the Celtic hill forts. It was begun around 6,000 years ago. By about 2,400 years ago, the Norwegian tribe expanded it enormously to 47 acres enclosed and continued to do so, and it was abandoned just after the Romans arrived. Now, look over there. Can you see up there, those little dots? Those are sheep. That gives you an idea of how large this thing was. And they built this all by hand. They had wheels, they had oxen. Still a huge amount of work, wasn't it? This is a war pit found in the 1930s, all male, all violently obtained injuries on them. Buried with honor, not discarded. So it's interesting. It was a building defensively. We know hill forts and stockades all around the world, everywhere. They had them in the New World as well. It's very common. But here, they began this about 3,000 years ago. Not every hill fort was just for defense. Some were for herd animals. Some were for events. Some for simply family farms. Can you imagine a Celtic event? You all go, maybe the Druids are present, they were doing some ritual ceremony. It'd be pretty interesting if you survived it. The Iron Age is the age of the Celts. Now, you're going to hear me go Celts or Celts. I may choose either one. I may choose neither one. Most of Europe, east and west, was in a ferment of change 2,700 to 2,000 years ago. You remember the Mycenaean Bronze Age and all those wonderful, interesting Homeric heroes? Well, they were declining. They were crashing. whether for drought or other reasons, we're not sure, but they all crashed. And as they crashed, those Bronze Age cultures, these other European cultures kind of rose. Not in any connected way, it's just that one followed another. This is the Iron Age, and this is because they began to learn how to make steel swords. Before this, just iron wasn't all that useful for what they want. Bronze swords were actually better, but they learned how to fire iron with carbon to make steel. And suddenly they had a very worthwhile instrument either for farming or for fighting. So it's now called the Iron Age. In much of Europe, the Celts or the Celts were, they were the rulers. This is all over much of Europe, from Eastern Europe all the way to the coast of England. So then they built large settlements, extensive agricultural systems, huge trading routes, and by the time of Caesar, they were well organized and rich, with sizable populations and large numbers of warriors. Whether the Celts actually migrated to the British Isles as a large group is unclear. Certainly, the Celtic culture reached that far west, permanently influencing language, lifestyles, and art. And I'm going to do, for the next presentation on the 20th, I'm going to look more into genetic inheritance and see whether or not anybody has anything useful. I came across one study of English men. It was about 1,500 men. And I'm sorry, but to me this is teeny. 1,500 men is too teeny for you to make any conclusive statements about who their ancestors were. But that's my opinion. And I have a lot.
What's the buckskin? What is that?
Bukiskin Hillfort in Poland. They were all the way over in Poland. This is Latin, and Latin influenced one of the cultures, the Celtic culture. That's what it looked like when it was in real life. This is what they found in 1933, preserved in water. That's why it's still well preserved. It was in water. This is a reproduction of an Iron Age barn on stilts. How many people learned in history about the stilts built out over the lakes? It's all wrong. I was so disappointed. It turns out they were not building out over the lakes. They were building on stilts because of flooding. And they might or might not be close to a lake, but they were not building out over the lake. They did throw a lot of things in lakes. That was a ritual, throwing things into lakes. I was really hurt. So, giving the Greeks all the credit, after civilizing the Gauls, and this is a major piece of brown nosing as far as I'm concerned, from the people of Massilia, therefore, the Gauls learned a more civilized way of life. Their former barbarity being laid aside or softened, and by then they were taught to cultivate their lands and to enclose their towns with walls. Now, we know they were doing that long before the Greeks. Then, too, they grew accustomed to live according to laws and not by violence. Then they learned to prune the vine and plant the olive. So if you do things in Greek style, you're doing it the right way. And such a radiance was shed over both men and things that it was not Greece, which seemed to have emigrated into Gaul, to Gaul, that seemed to have been transplanted into Greece. Now, this man, Justinius, was a historian born to a Celtic tribe, the Volcanti. So who's he writing for? His masters, most likely. Okay. But, water it down a little bit, scrape some of the brown off, and it will be probably accurate. The coin with the head of Alexander was made by the Celtics, the Aquinas tribe. They based their coinage on Greek coins. He was known throughout much of the ancient European world, as well as all throughout the Middle East. While they benefited from trade with the Greeks, as well as Greek culture, as have we, the Gauls were on their own a fairly sophisticated group with their own distinctive pottery, designs, and culture, trading and traveling around Europe for hundreds of years before Massalia was established. So they were customers. That's what they were. They were barbarians, but also customers. And this was found in 2015, which shows you how recently they've been finding unlooted Celtic tombs. 2015. So there's not a lot of material published yet on it, just some commentary. This was a Celtic prince discovered in Laval, France in 2015. The Gauls or Celts made a strong impression on those who had conflict with them. The Gauls are tall bodied with rippling muscles and white skin, and their hair is long, not only naturally so, but they also make it their practice by artificial means to increase the distinguishing color which nature has given. I would love to know what he's talking about. The Gauls are terrifying in aspect, and their voices are deep and altogether harsh. So this is a Greek historian writing about them. Right. Conflict and trade, trade and conflict. Yet they learned new metalworking, new skills in agriculture, learned about making coins, and learned about the wider world. And keep in mind, there had been trade going on in Europe for forever. I mean, we know Baltic amber was found in among the Egyptian pharaohs. So trade had always been going on there. The Greeks may have smoothed off some edges, maybe, although they had their own edges, but they certainly gave a lot to the Celts in their art. And they took that art and made it their own. I thought this was interesting because there's a lot of gold in Celtic burials. Gold was mined in many places, but archaeologists found mines near modern Limoges. At the site of these excavations, ore treatment areas have been located. They include roasting hearths, ore, fragments of millstones, crushing tables, crushers, and touchstones. Now this is 2,200 years ago, 2,500 years ago. So they knew what they were doing. This is the most famous Celtic burial. Or Gaulish burial, some people may prefer to say. You can see the handle right there with the man standing next to it. That thing is huge. This is what he found. This was in 1953. It had been raining. It was very muddy. And staring up at him is this face here. A Gordon. So it was an amazing discovery, to say the least. Nobody had ever seen anything. They'd never seen anything that big. And all we find, they routinely find these kind of giant craters with Celtic burials. Nobody's ever seen one quite that big and quite that elaborate. This is extraordinary work here. This is from the rim area. You can see how beautiful that is. They believe it's from Sparta. This is the Gorgon on the side. It is 450 pounds, about 5 feet tall. So it's the largest such Greek vessel ever found. How did she end up with it? Yes.
Where is it now?
It's in Vix, France, in an area that I consider not particularly well guarded. But nobody's ever tried to run off with it. Maybe it's not that easy to run off with. So they have a museum there. The Vix crater tells archaeologists and historians just how important the trade with the Celts was 2,500 years ago. The Vix tomb lay at the foot of Mount Lesoir, a hill commanding the Seine River, and was heavily fortified by Celtic tribes until they abandoned it about 480 BC. And she's not very old, by the way. Since the Seine is navigable from present day to Havre down as far as Vix, which is a little town in France, the Celtic warlords of Mont-de-Sal controlled one of the great trade routes of the ancient world. So they would have been extremely rich. Tin from the mines of Cornwall, England, along with furs, amber, wood, and other northern products transported down the Seine on its way to be smelted into bronze in Greece. We tend to forget just how connected the ancient world was. We see them in isolated bits, kind of dummy. There was grace, there was wrong. But these people all knew one another. They had been trading with one another for a long time. They knew the word. They knew who had what. They knew where to get what. There were traders going back and forth, crossing the English Channel, coming back, going all through France, up to Germany, getting Baltic Emperor. This was a very busy period of time, and it was a very populated world. And it isn't really until the last, 30 years that they realized just how large and extensive this world was, our Celtic ancestors. Very large world, and a very important world. This is part of her burial. So you kind of wonder, was she a priestess, a princess? Why did she have this remarkable Greek crater that would have cost a huge fortune to have bought when they did buy it? This is about 17 ounces of gold. Does anybody want to multiply that out in today's values? Probably the 10 style, but Greek has been added onto it here. So it would have looked like this originally, but now this, which is quite beautiful because this is meant to be worn around the neck, is Greek. And this came from the Etruscans, and this is probably Greek, and it's gold and silver of gold, very beautiful. So the discovery and excavation of this burial in the 1950s opened new avenues of scholarship about the strength of the trading and cultural exchange relationship between the Greeks and Europe, the Gauls. In addition to the Vix crater, the lady had Greek and Etruscan items with her. What did it mean to her or her family? What did it say about long-distance contact and trade? She was wearing bronze anklets, a costume element that is not found in male graves. She also wore bracelets on both wrists, but her grave goods were so remarkable, they initially assumed she had to be male. It wasn't until later they said, they started looking at the skeleton, and she had some congenital issues. They looked at the skeleton and realized this is a woman, and she's wearing what women wear in these burials. So they finally said, oh, well, okay. This is the Hunderberg site in Germany. Anybody been near there? You recognize that at all? Okay. Well, you walked right over Celtic land. A big land.
I visited the Celtic site.
Did you visit their museum?
No, another Celtic site close to Frankfurt.
The what?
Another Celtic burial ground.
Oh, okay.
In the neighborhood of Frankfurt. The Celts were
all over the place, yeah. So it was discovered in 2010, which shows you how recent some of these discoveries are. They're finally going, wow, these guys had a lot of money. They were everywhere. Suddenly they're interesting. It's not just the Romans anymore. It was dated approximately 609 BC by dendrology. Does everybody remember what that is? It's okay if you don't. That's tree rings. They're pretty accurate. The grave was peaked up whole. This is the Germans will spend a lot more money than we will. Was peaked up whole, which you can see here. Or you could if this were. I had some kind of a magnetic effect on the motion. They just don't like it. Oh. See up there? See it? They picked it up whole, encased in concrete. That's a lot of work. And it's very expensive. And they took it to a laboratory where they had been working on it since then. This is what it would have looked like. They had everything marked. That gold is, I thought it was a bracelet or a necklace. It's actually part of an earring. Look at the detail on that. It's quite beautiful, isn't it? This would have been from her horse. It's armor for the horse, although it's just meant to be decorative. And she had some very beautiful beads, which in close-up were very beautifully tooled and made. This was a wealthy woman's grave. She had a 3-year-old child with her, so they both died of something, who knows what, but the child was buried in a lot of gold as well. The What's the reason for spending so much time on rich people? Mainly because this is where you're going to see the art. This is where you're going to find the educated people. This is where you're going to see what they were doing. But they had to have some way to support all that, and they did. The average farming Celt, how many of you have ever lived on a farm or been a farmer? Yeah, me too. So their life is not all that interesting. So they lived in a house with the barns, animals, and hand farming instruments that we are all familiar with even today, like a scythe. You'd recognize one of their scythes because we have them today, just like that, don't we? You should know how they lived because this will tell you how they supported this gigantic number of people that they had, and there were a huge population of Celts. We never hear about that. We always see them as kind of wild people running through the forest with druids and that. No, they were very rich and well settled with very large settlements. So we have been lied to. Must have been the damned Romans. So anyway, it keeps going like that. This was discovered 2010. When was this one? Oh, excavated in 1977, fairly ways ago. This is Hochdorf, Germany. And they have a Celtic museum. This is a chieftain. Look at his shoes. You like those shoes? I like those shoes. And he has, he's another one that has, he's the third one we've seen with these gigantic Greek craters that are huge. And you can see this is the beautiful work on them. The lion is on all of them. Very beautiful work. In a few places, they had some textiles that were preserved by the touching the bronze. I don't know why that preserves it, but it did. So they were able to reconstruct it. And you can see it's quite beautiful, isn't it? The Celts from England, Britain, all the way through had absolutely gorgeous textiles. Their textiles were purchased by the Romans and the Greeks because of their beauty and because they were very warm. Can you imagine being a Roman marching through Germany in the winter in those little toga things they wore? You know, can you imagine? I would buy a Celtic cloak too. But anyway, this is what it looked like. It's been reconstructed for the museum. You can see it. This really fascinated me. I have never seen anything like that before. This was the bronze couch he was lying on, very long, supported by 8 women on wheels. What is that about? That is the oddest thing I've never seen anything like that before. Look at that. It was so odd, but it was interesting. And why was it never looted? Because there were 50 tons of rocks between the inner chamber and the outer chamber. So nobody could get at it. Now, the modern archaeologists were able to. He was about 40, about 6 feet tall. Taller than Greeks and Romans at the time. This is a gorgeous thing. It's in the British Museum. Probably came from what they called the Iberian Celts in Spain. Now keep in mind the people of Spain at that time, 2,500 years ago, 2,300 years ago, were not the Spanish that we know today. They were Celtic. They probably had Greek. They hadn't yet been overtaken by the Moors or anybody else. And so they were very different people. They were Celtic people. And this is a Celtic brooch that was probably made for a chieftain or a king. You would have used it to put on to tie your woolen cape, because they didn't have buttons or anything like that. They had really simple ones of these. I was trying to buy live auction, had some Iron Age from Europe, silver fibula. Those are like they're almost like little safety pins, but they're slightly decorative. And the starting was $5. So I said, what the heck? One of them went for $15 and one of them went for $45. So I may try it again. They're not artistically outstanding, but there must be a lot of them. So I'd like to have them just for the fun of it. This is 5.5 inches long. It was in the hands of Portuguese royalty in the 19th century, probably taken from a Latin burial in Spain. It has some Greek influence, like the lion up there, and some Greek, some Iberian Gaul, some true Latin culture. Given the constant crossing and trading throughout Europe and the British Isles, this is not surprising. Perhaps 250 BC. Now, this says something about the level of culture and wealth for the Gauls of the time, doesn't it? This is not a common, ordinary work. My guess is there were once a lot of these kind of things around. They've been looted, they're in private collections. That happened a lot in the 19th century, and melted down. Very common treatment. The brooch is now at the British Museum, purchased in 2001 via the assistance of several resources, and I believe they paid about $1,500,000 to have it. So how the heck do you support all this wealth? This is something, again, first reported in 2015. They went looking because they thought there was something there. There's an old pond there. Right there, and they said they had a feeling there was something there maybe because of their knowledge of the area. So they started excavating around 2015. They discovered grain silos, and they don't have a final number, but they're guessing as many as 600 up to 1,500. And they look like this. They're all underground. And they were, that's a lot of grain silos. That means they're supporting a very large population, doesn't it? So it's probably the capital city near there, but there are lots of these grain silos to be found. They've been found in many places underground. They would put grain in there. They would keep it protected from air and water by sealing it over. And apparently, as they used one, and emptied it, they believe they may have fired it inside in order to clean it. So, well used, this describes one of the ways these huge Celtic populations could even live, because these settlements could have 10,000 people in them. Many of them would be craftspersons, but a lot of them would be farmers. They'd be ordinary, everyday people. And then the well-to-do families would be living in a separate area. But they're supported by hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these grain silos all around Europe. So this is one way they made it work. We're only now kind of finding out just how extensive they were, the size of the population, the wealth of the population. We're now discovering lots and lots of art that they had. We're uncovering graves that had not been seen before. So we're learning more about them all the time, and it's suddenly kind of staggering to know. You kind of stop and think, if the Romans hadn't destroyed the Gauls, pretty much, what would they have been like? What would they have made their own kind of huge, beautiful civilization? Interesting question. I don't have the answer. Crafts. This is a reproduction of something with a woman, found with a woman. Quite beautiful. That textile cape came from Denmark. Have we seen those plaids before? Have some of us worn plaids like that? Yes. It's quite beautiful, isn't it? And it would be a lot warmer than what the Romans and Greeks were used to wearing. This is why these textiles were quite popular. I don't know if you can see it very, very faintly here. You can see that he's wearing trousers, and there are designs on them. The waves of migration of wars from 1000 BC, which is 3,000 years ago, to the time of Caesar, many things have been lost. There were day-to-day activities supporting the extreme wealth of the royal and the aristocrats, the number of silos, settled households, weaving, wool use. So they must have had large herds, right? Herds of sheep, must have. Many other day-to-day activities supporting widespread culture. Their weaving commanded high prices glasses from the Romans and others. Not quite seeing that on Caesar somehow. Can you picture him wearing that? I don't see that, but it would be warmer than what he usually wore. This is an even earlier culture called staff, and this is a reproduction of one that's found. The way they dress is astonishing. They wear brightly colored and embroidered shirts with trousers called braque and close fastened at the shoulder with a boot. Heavy in winter, light in summer. These clothes are striped or checkered in design, with the separate checks close together and in various colors. So this Roman historian is describing what he is seeing. These well-woven items are found by at least 700 BC. So this is pretty, if you look at that, that's pretty advanced textile work. It's very nice work. Beautiful dyes, beautiful weaving, beautiful designs. So, and this purple glass here, they love beads. They had a lot of them. You find all kinds of beads in there. This is purple glass being used for making more beads. This is a Celtic part thing. These are quite beautiful, but most likely they were not worn to war. They're not very practical. So they think that what they were used for was warrior ashes. This one is about 3rd century BC. This one is about 4th century BC. The Battersea shield over here, right there, was found in, I think, in the Thames. Where do I have it? Yeah, copper, tin, lead, enamel. The Thames has been dredged several times. And as they dredge, they sometimes find very old things. And this is one of the things they found. So it would have been quite beautiful when it was new, wouldn't it? The close-up is the weapon shield, the center of it. You can see the design, you can see the beading on it. So they're very well made. And it's so strange. This is called a Waterloo helmet, because that's where it's found in England. Helmet, bronze, probably ceremonial only. But we've always said there's no horn helmets on Viking helmets. But strange to say, we find them on the Celts. What? Did they just stop doing it? I don't know. So, Caesar and the Celts. These words are actually earlier than the time Caesar was there. He was there from about off and on from 58 to 53 BC. He had his own political reasons and his own economic reasons for conquering Gaul. So he went over there, he drove through a lot of the Gaulish tribes, destroyed everything except what was right in the middle, where the Arverni people lived, and still a major force at that time. They were destroyed. He slaughtered people. I mean, literally, sent people to slavery. It was not pleasant. Caesar had his reasons. The Gauls had been aggressive on their own in prior centuries. If he had left them alone, would they have succumbed to attacks by other tribes living in Europe? The Germanic tribes were always a threat. Developed a brilliant civilization on their own. Although Caesar was brutal to the Gauls when they resisted, he also reported on them with a historian's eye, and it's partly from his Gallic commentaries that we learn anything, though most likely biased, about the Gauls and the Celts. Pretty much the work done by the Romans kind of like covered the Gauls for what? So many years before we were able to get into them and to understand how important they were, how widespread they were, and how powerful and rich they were. We literally didn't know this. We actually, many of people think of them as running through the forest, barbarians with druids and all this kind of thing. And this is not the Celts at all. This would have been very typical over here. A man who is about to be captured doesn't want his wife to become a slave or be raped, so he kills her first, and then himself. I like this one just because I think it's beautiful, but it's very typical. People, even when they're killing other people, have an artistic eye, don't they? Someone saw this and thought this and did this image because it's famous, it's the dying Gaul, and it's very beautiful. It's very beautiful. You can see the torque around his neck, right here, typical Celtic, and a mustache, also very Celtic. It's quite a beautiful work, but somebody wanted it to represent the death of Gaul and war. I don't know why they wanted to do that, why they felt they needed to do that, but it's quite a beautiful work of art, isn't it? So, how many remember this guy? I remember him. For some reason, I had to study him. I don't know why I knew his name. I said, Vercingetorix. Yay! I remember this guy. So he's the last of the Celts that Caesar had not yet oppressed and stomped on. From Caesar, the Celts appointed those whom they called Druids. These also being devoted to the prophetic art and the wisdom in general. In all these cases, the kings were not permitted to do or plan anything without the assistance of these wise men, so that in truth it was they who ruled, while the kings become as servants and ministers of their will, though they sat on golden thrones, dwelt in great houses, and feasted sumptuously. Well, we don't know how true that was, but it's interesting. So was he a king or a priest? He wasn't very old when he died. He lived from 82 BC to 46 BC, and the only reason he died is because after he turned himself over to Caesar executed him, strangled him. Was he both king and priest? Have you noticed, you're French or from France, have you noticed how many X letters there are in French language? Not common for other languages. Maybe that is the heritage of the Celtic languages. Yeah, I thought of that. I said, we're thinking, how many words in the X in France? A lot of them. And I said, that's very interesting. I don't know, I made that up because I thought it was interesting. Sounds good. So, the Gauls remaining after Caesar conquered the area, joined Vercingetorix. He's still a hero in parts of France, by the way. He and the Gauls won the Battle of Gergovia in 52 BC. He eventually lost, and the Romans killed or enslaved many thousands, even children. Caesar paraded him through, he turned himself in, because he felt that his army and his people were going to die. So he surrendered to Caesar. Now, he was paraded through the streets of Rome, then killed in 46 BC. It's also his story is the story of the Gauls. Powerful, rich, opposition to the Romans that was a hopeless opposition. As they fell before the legions, they fought hard and cleverly. And in Caesar's commentaries, how many people have read those in English? Anybody? I had to read them. I took 3 years of Latin. And one of the things I had to do was translate some of Caesar's commentary. They fought cleverly. He noticed that too and commented on it, but eventually lost. Caesar follows him in death 2 years later, doesn't he? 44 BC. The Roman Barbarian Wars, that's the title of an article. The English continued calling these people barbarians. I hate that word. The era of Roman conquest, and perhaps it should say barbarian Roman wars. Not that I'm prejudiced. Okay, June 20th, we're going to talk about Celtic language, art, and Celts in the British Isles. And in the fall, I'm going to be talking about the Irish themselves as Celts and non-Celts. So this is the Wandsworth Shield found in the Thames, again, after dredging. 1858, Latin style, likely, you can't really see it, but over here is just the faintest engraving of something. So it was probably very pretty and interesting when it was first made. Likely a ritual sacrifice, because they did that everywhere there was a lake, whether it was Europe or Germany or Denmark or water, anywhere, they threw it in. Whether it was to celebrate the death of a warrior or something, I don't know why, but they did it all the time, and they found so many of them. So, classical authors conjure up a fantastical picture of a strange people, unfamiliar to the civilized, you see my quotes, inhabitants of Greece and Rome. The Greek historian Diodorus Siculus, writing in the 1st century BC, tells us they were prone to arrogance and overindulgence. Well, that's the way to live. Addicted to wine and
Like the Irish to me.
yeah, frequently drinking so much they fell into a stupor. Does that ring any bells? The men grew their mustaches so long that when they were drinking, it was the liquid passed through a kind of a strainer. They dressed ostentatiously in brightly colored shirts and trousers and striped or checked coats. Many historians and archaeologists will argue the Celts themselves never invaded the British Isles in waves of movement, but all of those people that were in Britain were long-term natives, and they simply adapted the culture. I don't know. I'm going to see what I can find out, because it's kind of an interesting issue. Okay, I will see some of you on the 20th.